Hello and welcome. This is part 5 of a 5-part series on the errors of the Roman Catholic Church. I am Aaron Milavec, a retired professor of theology. I've been teaching for 25 years in Catholic settings and another 10 years in Protestant settings, so I've got a mixed bag. I am not an enemy of the Catholic Church, far from it. I was born a Catholic. I've lived my entire life as a Catholic. I taught in seminaries for 25 years as a Catholic, and I'm going to die as a Catholic. However, because I am an insider, I know some very important things that I want to share with you. The topic for today is forced conversions of Jews. One doesn't hear very much about forced conversions. Oftentimes they're hush-hushed, and there's a kind of a tendency within Catholic circles never to criticize the hierarchy, and certainly not to criticize the Pope. Well, I'm going to actually set those hesitations aside in order to tell you just how bad things have been. Okay, the year is 1858, and there's a Mortara Jewish family. They hire a young Catholic girl to actually babysit for them. And while she's babysitting, she notices that the Edgardo, who is an infant, is developing a high fever. She doesn't know exactly what to do. And so she resorts to an emergency baptism. She believes that actually he may be at the point of death. Now, remember this. This is a teenage girl making this kind of assessment. But her religious teachers, like my own religious teachers, said that in the case of an emergency, even an ordinary person can actually baptize an infant, and the infant's soul will be saved. Their body may die, but their soul will be saved. Ah, what a wonderful thing that would be, huh? Okay, so that's what she does. She goes ahead and baptizes Edgardo, and his soul is saved. Well, he recovers. He recovers, and she's conflicted about this. Should she have actually asked permission of the parents first? Was she unauthorized to make this decision all by herself, alone, in the house with the sick child? Finally, 6 years after the actual event, she brings all of these issues to bear with her parish priests. She tells them all the details of what led to the baptism. Now, the parish priest takes a big interest in this because actually Edgardo would appear to be a Roman Catholic, but no one notices it. His parents have not noticed it, and certainly he hasn't been in communication with any priest or with any Catholic community. And what should one do in a case like that? So the priest then takes the issue to the Vatican, and here Pius IX, who's actually at this particular time at an early point in his pontificate, he has a group of scholars and pastors to gather together and to give him their opinions. He listens to all of this, and he decides to take action. What action? To actually forcefully remove Edgardo from his family setting. What's the reason? Edgardo is not any longer a Jew. he is now a Roman Catholic by virtue of the emergency baptism. Now, he did not die, and so, in effect, the emergency baptism wasn't needed. Nonetheless, he remains a Roman Catholic by virtue of the baptism. The parents are unfit to be parents to this child, and so the Pope says, I have the right and the authority to actually remove him from his Jewish family and to bring him into a Catholic orphanage where he will be taught how to become a Catholic, how to pray, what are the marvelous deeds of Jesus, etc., etc., etc. Okay, well, meanwhile, you can imagine this creates quite a stir, and people are conflicted at that time on this particular issue. Meanwhile, Pius IX is receiving some nasty letters and also some very polite letters. There was one particularly polite letter written by a mother saying that, oh, you cannot comprehend the loss of that mother having her child removed from her authority and her home and her family in order to live in an orphanage because of an emergency baptism and God knows what. We have raised him as a Jew in our family. Isn't that enough? Well, Pius IX wrote, this lady has never studied the catechism. Of course not. Of course not. But when he starts getting international criticism by some of the high-ranking officers in other countries, his own Secretary of State, Cardinal Antonelli, writes a short letter to him saying, this issue of the forced conversion of Edgardo Mortara is causing more bad press in the international scene than you can imagine. I suggest you give the child back to the mother. Well, he didn't. He said to Cardinal Antonelli, the Blessed Virgin Mary is my protector. I have nothing to fear. Ha! The Blessed Virgin Mary is my protector. I have nothing to fear. Oh boy. And so, the Pope begins to take a special interest in Edgardo. He actually has him being raised in his own palace. He gives him candies and toys, and they develop a kind of a friendship. The young Edgardo, 7 years old now, begins to call him uncle, which once again he's trying to indicate a kind of warm relationship with the Pope. And the Pope is just, what I can say, taken away by this. He enjoys spending a lot of time with him, the free time that he might have. And he has other good sisters taking care of his religious formation. Well, as the years go on, Edgardo confides to his uncle that I would like to be a priest. And the Pope says, marvelous, marvelous. I have a special ministry for you. You are going to become my special ambassador for the conversion of the Jews. Yes, you were a Jew and you were converted by virtue of your sickness and the baptism of the good girl who baptized you on the door of death. Now you're going to use your life to bring the Jews into the mercy and the love of Jesus Christ. There was the story. Did it take place? It sure did. It sure did. But the issue didn't go away. It didn't go away. We're going to come back to this in just a moment, but I want to talk a little more about forced conversions. Let's go back to Spain in the early 1400s. Spain was actually still occupied by some of the Muslim forces, and so it wasn't entirely a free country. But Isabel was a very pious woman who actually became queen. And she made a vow to her people that I will be fair to the Jewish people that live among us, and I will actually protect them against abusive conduct on the part of Catholics. Abusive conduct on the part of Catholics. Catholics resented having Jews in and around them. Why? Why don't they accept Jesus? I mean, Jesus was a Jew. He's also the Son of God. He's much more important than Moses or Elijah or any of the prophets. Come to the true faith, and you will be truly loved by God as you deserve. So there was a massive, what can you say, conversion formula. And when the Jews did not respond, they began to use force. And one of the most egregious cases was in the city of Seville. There was a Jewish quarter. Jews were not permitted to freely circulate in Catholic society. They had to live in a certain ghetto, we would call it today, the Jewish quarter. And a couple of thousand Catholics went in there and began to actually place before the Jews there either accept conversion to Christ or we are going to kill you. It's either Jesus or death. Most of them, of course, refused, yes, and were killed, martyred. All of their property was destroyed, stolen. So it was a big event because it involved so much theft and murder. However, there were also about 50,000 who converted under the forced conditions that I just described. And so this began to create the idea that maybe the sermons, maybe the catechisms, maybe the good conduct of Catholics was not enough for their conversion, that they needed a little nudge. A little nudge. And all throughout Spain and Portugal, we now had incidents of what we would call today scandalous convert or death situations. Pogroms, we might call them, pogroms. The result of this took place all during the 1400s. And in 1480, the problem occurred that Catholic pastors and Catholic people were no longer certain of the fervor, the religious fervor of those who had converted under duress. And so, in consultation with the Pope, the Dominican order was given the office and the right to investigate the lives, the private lives of converts, and to make sure that they were not incognito Jews who just simply had a conversion moment because of the force and the terror, and therefore did not really remain in their heart of hearts deeply committed to Jesus Christ. Oh boy. This was the beginning of the Spanish Inquisition. Now, Queen Isabel was a fantastic woman and a very devout Roman Catholic. She felt that actually she could bring peace between the Jews and the Catholics within her society. And how did she begin? She began by, before her inauguration into office as queen, she took a public vow before God and her people that she was going to defend Jews among her people from forced conversion. She was going to defend them. And further, she was going to actually hire many skilled diplomats from the Jewish community to work with her in administering the realm. Okay, she did that. But then she changed her mind. She changed her mind. 1492. This is a very important date. You, of course, know it as the date where Columbus sailed the ocean blue and went and discovered. He thought it was going to be India, but actually it was a whole new continent. At any rate, in 1492, Queen Isabel created the Alhambra Decree. And what did this decree say? It said, in effect, that there is no way of actually creating peace between Catholics and Jews. And so we're going to go into emergency measures. Every Jew that lives among us and who is a citizen of Spain or Portugal must, in the next 4 months, decide either to convert or to go into exile. Whoa. I mean, if you think about it a little moment, this is under threat. Either to convert or to go into exile. There is to be no organized Judaism whatsoever in Spain and Portugal. All the synagogues are to be shut down, made into chapels or into churches. In 4 months, there will be no Jews left in Spain. Guess what? 200,000 conversions took place during that period. And so now there's a humongous number of, let's call it for what it is, coercive conversions. Coercion conversions. This is not what Jesus wanted. This is not what the saints wanted, although maybe some of them did. Some of them even actually supported the Queen's Alhambra Decree. But that's neither here nor there. The fact of it is that in the mind of the Queen and of the Catholic populace, Jews had no reason to continue to exist in their country. So let's get rid of them, and those who want to join us, they now become Roman Catholics. And Torquemada, the fanatic for sniffing out false conversions, begins to take effect. And so the Spanish Inquisition moves into full gear. Now, this is a religious order, keep in mind. Dominicans, Thomas Aquinas was a Dominican. The members of the order didn't think it unusual that they would become watchdogs and police, religious police, for these Jews who had converted. As a matter of fact, they called them Moranos, pigs. Not a very affectionate or fraternal nomenclature, but that was a sentiment within the society. They were the pigs that had converted in order to save themselves and to save their wealth. But we're going to keep a close eye on them. Anyone who sees any suspicious behavior of any of these Moranos, the pigs, should report to the nearest office of the Inquisition, and they will then begin to look into it. Now, these pious Dominicans had to actually show that they were going to do this with vigor, and so they began to investigate the utility of actually using mild torture by way of getting personal confessions on the part of false conversions. Oh boy, things begin to heat up. And it actually grieves me to hear Roman Catholic historians sort of poo-pooing the Spanish Inquisition. Oh, it wasn't actually that effective. It wasn't so much out of line. The people completely supported it. Oh, but they should not have supported it. People should have rose up and said, no way are we going to accept this kind of coercive behavior. These Moranos have actually accepted Christ. They are receiving the communion with us at the altar each Sunday. They are confessing their sins. It's not right to use torture on them to get confessions. But they were silenced. The naysayers were silenced. Anyone who actually confessed, even under torture, that they were secretly still attached to Moses, Abraham, etc., the Jewish traditions, were burned at the stake. Burned at the stake, yes. They were liars. Their baptisms were invalid. And so they were still Jews. And since there was no place for Jews in Spanish and Portuguese society, burnt at the stake. How many were burnt in all? Maybe 2,000, maybe 4,000. They weren't keeping very good records at this particular time. But the astonishing thing is that the popes and the other religious orders, the Franciscans, for instance, while they may be protesting what the conquistadors are doing over in the New World, they are not protesting what the conquistadors are doing right in their own backyard. Yes. And so this is a shameful, shameful period in Catholic history. There's no way of toning it down. There's no way of explaining it as being part of God's plan. No way. No way. I would want our Catholics to know that there was a moment like this. a moment where coercion was not only allowed, but used aplenty in order to bring people to Christ. That makes me want to throw up. Okay, let's bring it back now to Pius IX. Okay, he died, and quite soon after his death, there was a kind of movement to have him beatified. In other words, to say officially that he was a saint of the Roman Catholic Church, that he was in heaven praying for the church, and you can actually pray to him, and who knows, he may be more effective in getting your petition to the ear of Jesus and Mary than if you just try to do it by yourself. Okay, well, the moment that there was a movement towards celebrating him as a saint, the committees found great difficulty in many of the ways in which Pius IX acted, and more especially the case of Edgardo Mortara. But guess what? During the time of John Paul II in the 80s, the committee met and they said, well, what Pius IX did was not too extraordinary. We've looked into the records and investigations, and we find that there was anywhere between 10 and 50 cases just like this every year of his reign. And so he wasn't doing something so out of line with what other pastors and what other Catholic communities were doing. And we have to excuse him also because he was kind of a man of his times. Bullshit. Ripping a child away from its parents under the excuse that the child has become a Catholic because of a baptism has no sanction whatsoever. As a matter of fact, even Thomas Aquinas, the famous Dominican, took up this particular issue. And what he said is, no, the priority of God is that the parents must choose whether to bring their children up in the tradition in which they live. If they choose to do this, this is sacrosanct. No one can second guess them. Huh? But the reports didn't talk about that. They didn't talk about that. And so on September the 3rd, the year 2000, Pius IX was named as a saint in the Roman Catholic Church. Catholics were invited to bring their petitions to him and hopefully to be heard because he would pass on their petitions to Jesus and Mary, who are perhaps his neighbors in the world to come, in heaven. Oh, give me a break. Give me a break. I do not accept this. And John Paul II was actually a magnificent Polish pastor. He actually fought against the communist regime in his own country and brought it to its knees. I mean, he was a courageous man. For him to have endorsed the beatification of Pius IX What was he thinking? What was he thinking? In any case, I will not sit easy as a Roman Catholic as long as I know that some Catholics are willing to excuse this kind of conduct in the name of Christ. Never, never, never. Okay, this is going to be a hard pill to swallow. A very hard pill to swallow. That Catholics have a tradition of menacing Jews, menacing their lives and forcing them to convert. And they've done it again and again and again. This cannot remain a secret. It must be examined, and it doesn't even require an apology. What apology can you make for the Mrs. Mortara, whose son has been ripped out of her hand, and he becomes a Roman Catholic priest who hates the faith of his own mother? Oh my gosh. No. This is a major error of the Catholic Church. It is blind to the crimes against the Jews that have been committed in the past, but also in the present. There you have it. Okay, I am keenly aware that my message has caused great distress for some, and for others, they want to know more in order to actually begin to take action within their local church. I have prepared a study guide that actually takes the lesson that you just heard and actually details all of my sources and the complete logic and biblical tradition that I am following. This will provide you from the sources that you need. I have prepared a link at the bottom of this page, which will actually take you there and give you an opportunity not only to study this, but actually to enter into dialogue with other people who are concerned about this issue. Thank you very much. God bless you.